Hello. So I just received an email asking a bunch of questions, and I thought they were really great and really thoughtful. And so instead of just responding in an email, I'd rather respond so everyone can hear what I have to say. So the first question from Nicholas is, what do you think are the most pressing issues currently facing residents of Red Deer? So there's a few issues right now. Number one, and most recently, is this idea of having four as a right. And what that means is that every house was able to have up to four residences put on one lot. Now, council just did away with that concept, but we're still going through an issue right now where there's potentially eight plexes or four plexes still being approved within 800 meters of transit corridors. This was not done away with. Now, this isn't as a right, but this is still within the documentation that the federal government requires as part of the Housing Accelerator Fund. This would be discretionary from City Council, but I think that we need to go back and we need to just end this Housing Accelerator Fund completely. That's a big issue right now. Another big issue that we're facing right now is we're not prioritizing the core services. We have fire halls that are understaffed according to the metrics set out throughout Canada, and we are building bridges that don't need to be built right now. We are spending millions of dollars on things that should be spent on core services. So I really want to bring things back. We really have to take a deep dive into the budget. We all know there's the annual report. We can look at the numbers. But what those numbers are is really a bird's eye view. We need to take a real deep look and see where we are spending money. That goes on to targeting wastefulness. That's another point that I think is really important right now. We need to do that deep dive, and so we can fund our core services and shift some money over to the things that are important that make a city run. All right, I'm going to move on to the second question. There's other issues, of course. I mean, I'm not going to be doing a hour-long podcast, but I am doing those. So listen to the Calvin Goulet-Jones podcast, and I'm going to have more and more on these type of issues throughout the campaign. Second question, what experience or qualifications do you bring that have prepared you for serving on the city council? So I have been involved in informing residents for the past 13 years or so. I've had my Facebook page since I ran in 2013, and I'm constantly churning out information, bringing up new information, sleuthing a lot of the documents that the city brings forward, and I've really tried just to do that as a service for the residents. I've always enjoyed it. And then secondly, I've also served on boards for about 10 years, actually longer than that. I've been on political boards. I've written policy. I've had policy be pushed through AGMs that I've helped write, and it's really about understanding how these things work. I have a lot to learn, of course. I do not have a perfect understanding, but the last 15 years has really prepared me to take on this role. And of course, I wouldn't be taking on this role if it weren't for the dozens of people on these boards that I've served with, that I've met through my years of being involved politically, that have said, Calvin, we really would love to see you run. And so that just gives me confidence that I'm doing the right thing and that I will be an asset to the city, an asset to city council. Next question. In your view, what is the primary role of municipal government in a community like Red Deer? That's a great question. So I believe the primary role of the municipal government is to do the basics. So we have roads, we have sewers, we have water, we have our emergency services. There's a number of things like that we can go on and on and on. It is not the municipal government's job to provide services outside of our lane. And it seems like that's what we've been doing, and we're paying for it. So I really want to take the focus back onto the core services. It seems like the more and more as we grow, the more and more as we continue to expand, the more pressure there is for us to take on roles that aren't ours. And we have to be firm and stand up and say, this is actually not our role. You vote for provincial representatives, you vote for federal representatives. This is the city, and we need to make sure our taxes are reasonable, and we need to make sure that we're not having insane tax increases because we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing. Next question. If elected, what specific policy or initiative would you prioritize or advance for on council? On initiative right now, I mean, and this can change, and there's not necessarily a hierarchy in a sense where I say number one, but I just want to see taxes get under control. I want to find out where the money is going. And I've already mentioned the annual report that we can see the funds in there and how it's designated and which department it goes to. But I really think that we need to go deeper. We might even need a full-scale audit. I don't know yet, but I really want to see people to understand where their dollars are going, and so that we can actually maintain control on that. I think everything else is somewhat of an umbrella underneath that, where Yep, there's issues with emergency services. We have to fix those. We have to make sure that we're meeting proper metrics. There's issues with policing and the crime in the city that people don't want to go downtown. I don't want my family going downtown with the way it is right now. There's several issues, and like I said, it's not really a hierarchy, but I need to be able to look at these things and to be able to talk with a lot of different people. Part of why I'm doing the podcast that I'm doing is so that I can talk to people, even ones that I potentially disagree with, and we could just have an open communication as far as what's happening so I can understand more and more and more. I hope that answers that question. How would you have voted on the decision to establish a supervised consumption site in Red Deer, in favor or against? All right, so I would have voted against the supervised consumption site. I don't believe it works. I do understand the logic, but I'm really excited that I'm going to be sharing a conversation with someone soon regarding the downtown issues. And it's someone that I naturally will disagree with in this regard. We come at it from the same heart, and we come at it from the same sort of viewpoint that we actually don't want to see people die. We don't want harm to be done downtown. And I'm really looking forward, because the way we solve this isn't just by shutting out one side and the other side shutting out the one side. We need to talk about this and communicate. I want to continue the conversation, because what we have isn't just going to go away. And we can't just say, well, there's only this option or there's only this option. We need actual new ideas. And the more we can converse with each other and be open and to understand that this isn't necessarily even a government issue, but it's affecting us. All that to say that we need to have a new approach for this. So I would very much have voted against it, but I want to talk about this because, like I said, the homelessness issue, the addiction issue, it's not going away tomorrow, and we need to communicate more and more and more. That probably won't even fix the issue, but at least we'll be going in the right direction. All right, next question. Do you support City Council's decision to create a municipally controlled corporation to manage electricity delivery in Red Deer? Why or why not? So I don't support that at this point. I think that they should have delayed that conversation. I know it was going on in the background for several years, and so it just kind of came at the residents at the last minute, and it's like, whoa, what's going on here? There's a lot of backup that happened in the last couple of years, but I think that we have a new council and are coming up in October, regardless of whether I'm on it or not, and that should have been a part of this municipal election. I think that the way they went about it was wrong because they only asked one question. My administration looked at one question of, should we go this route? It was very narrow as far as what they were told they should study. And I think that we needed more study. Look, I would have been open to having a partnership where we sell half of it, we maintain dividends on part of it, and then we take that money that we sold it for and we just put it on our debt, and we save millions of dollars a year because we don't have that debt servicing. But I don't know completely how that would have looked, and neither does the city because they didn't go down that road. So I think they made a decision hastily, even though it took them so long to come up with that decision at the end of the day when they started. I think we needed much more information as a community, and it was a disservice to the citizens to push this forward right now when they did. So it is what it is in this sense. I don't want to campaign just looking backwards, but I think that we do have opportunities going forward that will be beneficial to the residents. And that's just one of those things. If I'm elected, I need to, get into council, look at the portfolio, look at what happened. I don't have access to all that stuff right now, but I am very much opening on continuing that conversation. What tax rate would you advocate for if elected to council? I would advocate for a inflation-only tax increase at this point. I know that inflation is hitting everybody, including the city, but we don't get to make those excuses as far as, we need a 10% tax increase because of inflation. We don't get to make the excuses as far as, our operational budget is growing like mad because, we're spending money that we approved. Inflation only is reasonable. And of course, when it comes to the budget number, it would be inflation plus growth, because as you're adding houses, you're taking on new revenue as well. Next question. Would you advocate for a 0% tax? Just going back onto the last question. So I do think that a 0% tax this year would be great. I can't make any promises in that regard. Like I said, we have to go into the budget. We have to look at it. We have to look at deep. It might be this year. It just depends on what the council is looking like, right? If we can get to a 0% tax increase this year, absolutely. At the end of the day, we need to really respect the taxpayer. We need to understand that it is not the government's money. It is taxpayers' money. It is your money. It is my money as a taxpayer, right? And so if we don't treat it in the same way that we would treat it in our own home, then we are doing a disservice to our people. It always feels good to build something and to put a legacy mark on there. What you don't see is the background effect of how the $400, $500, $600 tax increase affected the family that's already having a hard time paying for school supplies, paying for their food, paying for all that kind of stuff. So I'm starting from the perspective of every time we have a new expense, we don't just get to magically have it come out from thin air. Even if it's a grant, it has to come from your pocket. We have to then reach out and take it from your pocket. And that's the perspective I think that we need to have if we're elected. It's too easy to fall into this trap of, oh, well, this is the same budget that we had last year and we're just going to allocate it. No, you have to think deeper than that. Every tax dollar you have has a person behind it, and there's a story behind that person. And so we have to treat this money with respect. So I would certainly like to advocate for a 0% tax increase. I just don't know the story yet. If it's possible, I will definitely push for it. Just like I said, I can't promise, but my heart is really to make life easier for Red Deerians, right? I want to change Red Deer for the better is what I say. So thank you for these questions, and I really appreciate them. I'm doing things a little bit differently, doing a video response rather than it just written down. That way you can see my heart, you can see my eyes, and you can know that I'm a real person and I'm here to stand up for you. So you guys have a great day, okay? Bye-bye.